Alain Locke was born Arthur Roy in Philadelphia in the year 1885. Through his life he was granted many nicknames that he is well known by today, including the Dean of the Harlem Renaissance, due to his extensive academic resume and his self-appointed title, the Midwife of the Harlem Renaissance, for his part in giving a voice to a generation of young African American artists in the early 1900s. He was a theorist, critic, philosopher, writer, interpreter of African American literature and art, editor of The New Negro, mentor to many up-and-coming African American artists, and a professor at Howard University. Locke was the first African American to be named a Rhodes Scholar in 1907. In his obituary, fellow Rhodes Scholar Carl Karsten described Locke as one of the kindest, sweetest, most outgiving Americans any of us will ever know. An industrious, productive, beloved college professor, and for a larger portion of American citizens, I suppose, a more potent influence for good than is ever likely to be again the lot of a Rhodes Scholar. Locke received his preliminary education at Central High in Philadelphia and later Harvard College. He then attended Oxford under the Rhodes Scholarship. He is most remembered for his philosophical contributions to the concept of cultural pluralism and his aesthetic contribution to the Harlem Renaissance through his publication, The New Negro. Alain Locke grew up in a family that held academic success at the forefront of their values and imposed this on Locke from a very young age. His father, Pliny, had a law degree from Harvard and was known to be a very accomplished public speaker. His grandfather, Ishmael Locke, was a teacher at a Quaker mission in Liberia and later the first principal of the School for Colored Youth in Philadelphia. His mother, Mary Hawkins Locke, was a teacher and encouraged Alain to attend Central High to pursue a classical education rather than attending military school, as his father had wished to send his son before he died. Alain grew up extremely close to his mother, who followed him his whole educational career and who Alain cared for until her death. Locke decided to change his name from Arthur Roy to Alain Leroy Locke just before starting high school, although his mother still affectionately called him Roy for the rest of her life. Central High was an incredible foundation for Locke's pursuit of academia and achievement of the Rhodes Scholarship, because it was renowned for its staff of professors, including 22 who had doctoral degrees and another 10 with masters. So many graduates of Central High were sent to Cambridge, Massachusetts, that its alumni had formed a Central High School Club of Harvard, of which Alain Locke was the first Black member. The Rhodes Scholarship, which was first awarded in 1902, is, to this day, the oldest and one of the most prestigious international scholarship programs in the world, allowing talented young people from all over the world to study at Oxford. After winning the scholarship in 1907, Locke received his degree from Harvard magna cum laude a year earlier than his original class. During the spring of, Locke decided to enter Harvard's annual literary competition. His essay on Tennyson won that year's Bowdoin Prize over his classmates Van Wyck Brooks and Samuel Eliot Morison, who both later won Pulitzer Prizes. During his career as a philosopher and writer, Locke often clashed in his opinions with another prominent African American writer and sociologist, W. E. B. Du Bois. Both felt that as long as Black people were portrayed in literature as inferior, no individual or group of Black people could claim honor. In order to achieve this, they felt they had to interject beauty into the traditions of African Americans through art. Du Bois felt that African American artists had a responsibility to represent the Black experience as a whole to try and gain sympathy to achieve a higher social regard. Locke famously considered this propaganda and strongly advocated for art that portrayed the experience of Black individuals. Locke believed presenting the beauty of an individual would be more universally relatable and would forward social change. The Negro, published in 1915, is a product of Du Bois' perspective, featuring a collection of African and African American history. Locke's point of view can be seen in the philosophical ideas of cultural pluralism and in his own 1925 publication, The New Negro, which instead of history is an anthology of poetry, essays, plays, music, and portraiture by Black and white artists about individual African Americans and their experiences. Alain Locke was one of the first philosophers to publish an opinion on what cultural pluralism was to him. Locke believed in equality in the sense that he believed all cultures should be equally respected, but not in the sense that cultures should be equal in their belief systems. He believed in individualism with connection to larger groups that allowed an individual to remain different but equal amongst others. As he imagined it, cultural pluralism is the recognition of common features of competing value systems to forge a friendship between groups but also recognize the differences of individuals as indefeasible and acceptable, despite color, gender, creed, or occupation. Locke believed that one could value people's origins without condemning them for their past based on social constructs. Alain Locke's greatest aesthetic contribution was his 1925 publication of The New Negro. The New Negro was an anthology of poems, essays, plays, music, and photography that features some of the most innovative and brave Black writers and artists of the 1920s. Alain Locke wrote the introductory essay in his collection, edited the contributions, and mentored many of the writers. Locke gave a voice to many who would go on to have their own successful careers and publications, including Hughes, Cullen, Toomer, Fawcett, Claude McKay, and Zora Neale Hurston, many of whom were planted in the public eye for the first time because of The New Negro. This publication has extreme historical importance as it is considered the launching point of the Harlem Renaissance and was notable for interjecting a new fresh style of literature full of gritty and exciting recognition for the experiences and art of Black individuals that swept across America following The New Negro. The New Negro firmly placed Alain Locke at the center of the Harlem Renaissance movement. He named himself the midwife of the Harlem Renaissance because of all the new Black voices he helped usher into the light. The accomplishments of Alain Locke are insurmountable and should be celebrated in the history of literature and philosophy. Despite being one of a handful of African Americans in his graduating class and often facing scrutiny from his peers, he is remembered for his kindness and innovative way of speaking. Not only was Alain Locke marginalized as part of the Black community, but the history of Locke's homosexuality is something that has been washed from history for being non-conformative to social standards. In the biography, The New Negro: The Life of Alain Locke, Professor Jeffrey Stewart notes that among Locke's posthumous effects was a box that contained semen samples of his past lovers. Upon its discovery, it was promptly destroyed. Locke was known to have many affairs with his students and mentees, including Cullen, who would later try and save his reputation by marrying the daughter of W. E. B. Du Bois. Despite the adversity he faced in life, Locke pursued his passions, and his contributions to Black America sparked a movement of art and literature and philosophy that defined a generation. Thank you for listening to my video. This is my works cited.